Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Zapata, Marketing Specialist at Hyperbaric. Welcome to another HPP Innovation Week session titled The Benefits of HPP for Retailers. The food and beverage industry is experiencing a noticeable shift in consumer demand for fresh, natural foods that are prepared without harmful ingredients historically used for preservation. In this session, we'll explore how HPP is enabling retailers to meet consumer demand for these clean label products, extend shelf life, and reduce food waste. As a guest panelist, we have Brad Key joining us. Brad is the Retail Business Development Director at Universal Pure. He delivers a customer-focused and solutions-based approach to complex sales. Brad works closely with manufacturers, co-packers, and retailers to educate, identify, and incorporate high-pressure processing on a wide range of product offerings, including multiple categories. Brad previously had extensive experience managing a sales and business development team focused on national and regional supermarket chains, including Albertsons Safeway, Ahold Delhaize, the Kroger Company, HEB, Publix, and Walmart. I'd like to now introduce Brad and hand over the presentation. Brad, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the opportunity to share some insights around the benefits of HPP for retailers, and appreciate Hyperbaric putting together this HPP Innovation Week. Before we get started, I'm going to show a quick video. Video highlights a survey that Universal Pure conducted of retailers to get feedback on how they view HPP and how they view the benefits of HPP for their own brands and private label. Excellent. So we're going to walk through a couple different things in our discussion about how HPP benefits retailers. We'll talk a little bit about retail private label trends. We'll talk about how HPP helps retailers gain a competitive advantage. We'll also talk about the benefits of HPP specifically for retail private label and own brands, and what retailers are currently doing to leverage HPP, and then some of the product development trends that we're seeing across the product categories in retail. So looking at private label trends, a lot of these trends were analyzed pre-COVID-19, pre-pandemic, as well as our retail survey results that you just saw in the video. All this took place pre-COVID-19. So we've seen strong growth in the private label market share. Retailers are really focusing on private label products and private label products that are competitive and compete with the national brands. And they're seeing growth across all categories. Some of the categories going off the shelves, obviously the produce, beverages categories are huge. Deli, dairy, grocery. And then the other big trend we're seeing across all brands, private label, own brands, and national brands, is consumers are seeking out cleaner label, shorter ingredient deck products, fresher foods that they get around the perimeter of the store as opposed to the frozen aisle, the center of the store. And we're seeing growth in the clean label categories across all income levels. All households are purchasing more of the fresh, clean label products. They want, a shorter ingredient deck without the large words on it. So this was all done pre-pandemic. The indication is that COVID-19 has only accelerated these patterns. Consumers are still seeking out cleaner label products, still seeking out fresher products, and the volume has increased as we went through the pandemic issues with the food service and restaurant industry. So the demand across the board for private label and cleaner label products has continued to grow. So with that in mind, retailers are seeking out ways to gain a competitive advantage and looking for technologies that can impact the things that the consumers are looking for, which is where we see tremendous growth with incorporating HPP in the retail sector, specifically on their own brands and private label products. So why are they seeking out HPP products? Because they can improve their food safety, they can shorten their ingredient index and provide cleaner label products. HPP is sustainable in that it uses only water, cold water at high pressure to improve shelf life and inactivate pathogens. This increases their brand protection, helps them supply quality products, and helps them extend shelf life without using additives or preservatives on those products. So it aligns directly with the goals and objectives that they have to meet their consumer demand. So some of the key reasons retailers are looking to HPP and what benefits they're seeing from leveraging HPP in their own brands and private label products. Probably the number one thing that they tell us is the food safety aspect. So HPP obviously inactivates pathogens such as Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, Vibrio. It also kills the spoilage organisms that cause shorter shelf life on products without additives and preservatives. So leveraging HPP as a technology to impact food safety and the quality of their food products is one of the biggest reasons. The second biggest reason is the extension of shelf life. So consumers are seeking out and demanding fresher foods, cleaner label foods. Those foods typically come with a shorter shelf life. By leveraging HPP, they can extend the shelf life 2x to 10x on some categories. So if you look at some of the biggest categories that we see as an HPP processor, ready to eat meats, doubling the shelf life from 50 to 100 days, raw proteins, doubling the shelf life as well. One of the growing categories that we're processing a lot of products for own brands and private label is the wet salads, salsas, dips, hummuses. We're seeing a 2x shelf life in those categories. HPP has long been leveraged in the beverage space for cold pressed juices, taking those categories up, 2 to 10 times in some cases on the cold pressed juice category, and then dips and salsa. So shelf life extension impacts a lot of things within the retail space. And you'll see one of the last ones is the shrink control, but being able to meet that consumer demand with fresher foods with a long shelf life is a key driver of growth for HPP in the retail space. Consumer demand for cleaner label products with shorter ingredient index, free from products that don't have the long big words that consumers are shying away from. This is a big driver for HPP growth in retail private label. And retailers know that HPP is a natural product. It's cold water at extremely high pressure. So this is appealing to retail buyers and product developers. And then shrink control. Obviously, if you're able to double, or in some cases 5x or 10x the shelf life on products, retailers are going to be able to manage their inventory better. They're going to be able to manage their supply chain better, create more efficiencies in that supply chain, logistics and distribution from their distribution centers, which impacts their ability to keep their shelves stocked and reduce costs throughout the supply chain. So retailers leveraging HPP, the big reasons and objectives that they are focused on HPP as a technology is some of the things we've already talked about, but being able to source a larger array of clean label products in their fresh and prepared foods, extending the shelf life and controlling shrink in those fresh foods, and then the growing consumer demand that's only projected to increase for the healthier food that also has a long shelf life, gives them a competitive advantage with their own brands and their private label to beat the national brands and to offer more product that meets consumer demand. As a third-party HPP processor, we're seeing a lot of growth from the retail space and people looking to outsource HPP and looking for partners that can work with their existing supply chain, or partners that have co-manufacturers within their network that they can leverage to incorporate HPP. So I personally work with a lot of retail own brand product developers, private label groups, to educate them on the benefits of HPP in their space, and also to do R&D work with their current suppliers. Some of the trends that we're seeing with current suppliers is taking products from fresh to frozen. So, products that are healthy products but are currently sold in a frozen format. How do we leverage HPP technology to move those to the perimeter of the store with a long shelf life in a fresh format? And then some of the other big trends we're seeing in strategies from retail is impacting food safety by getting away from manual food handling processes, whether it's breaking down product in the deli, such as rotisserie chickens, pulling apart those birds in the deli and making things like, enchiladas or chicken salads. That is a high risk for food safety issues within the retail stores. So if they can leverage things like HPP on those components to get products with a longer shelf life and eliminate the food safety risks of manually having to tear apart those birds in store, we're seeing a growing trend of retailers looking to incorporate HPP in the deli and prepared food space for those activities. So one of the things that I do is work directly with retailers on identifying opportunities like that, and also connecting them with co-manufacturers that can supply those products, or being introduced and working with their current suppliers to test out an R&D HPP on the products they're currently supplying and see what kind of impact we can have on those. So some product development trends that I'm engaged with on the retail space right now, we're seeing a lot of retailers focus in, especially with COVID-19 over the last year, focus in on delivering the fresh, clean meal kits. So how do we leverage HPP on all or certain components of the meal kit so that we can extend the shelf life and get those products out to the consumers that they're demanding, but also obviously, there's always a short shelf life on some of the ingredients in those kits. So how do we impact that shelf life to make it a much more profitable endeavor for the retailers to meet those consumer demands? Same thing with snack kits. We're working with big manufacturers and retailers on HPP components, and then packaging and assembling the snack kit. So it extends the shelf life on the entire snack kit with certain components, leveraging HPP. Beverages have grown tremendously. We thought we might have hit a plateau, but we're seeing strong growth in the cold pressed beverage, cold pressed juice categories across retailers, and retailers looking to carry their own lines of cold pressed HPP beverages. And then, as I mentioned previously, the deli and prepared food space, retailers looking to impact the food safety and quality of their product by eliminating high risk activities in their prepared foods area through incorporating HPP components, whether it's a protein, a wet salad, salsas, dips, hummuses. They can bring in bulk product that is HPP that has a 60 or 70-day shelf life that they can then use in the deli to prepare the fresh prepared foods that they normally do without running the risk of food safety contamination that goes with preparing food in the deli. Some of the big categories that we are engaged in, protein has always been the #1 category for HPP for us. And we continue to see strong growth in protein, both in the ready-to-eat space and also in the raw space. So in the deli, we're seeing growth within the sliced and cooked deli meats, chicken, turkey, ham, beef. And we're also seeing a lot of growth in the raw space as well. So HPP on more raw products. Another growing category, seafood, with the shellfish, the oysters, the lobster, the crab, the shrimp, mollusks, mussels. A lot of growth leveraging HPP on those specific items, but also wet salads and dips that contain the seafood items in there. Hummus, tuna salad, salsa, dressings and dips are also a big growing category. And then juices have been a strong category, but we're seeing kind of a resurgence with more people purchasing the cold pressed juices, and that category growing coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic as people look to be healthier and build up their immune systems. Some of the interesting categories that we've seen strong growth in also include dairy with yogurt-based dressings, sour cream, cream cheeses, fruits and vegetables being incorporated in HPP, And then one of the biggest recent categories that's been showing strong growth is the pet food space. So HPP as a food safety step in pet food, and the shelf life extension in pet food for both raw pet food and freeze-dried pet food. That category continues to grow. I think, coming out of COVID-19, lots of people have focused on being at home and spending time with their pets and, feeding their pets healthy foods as well. And then fresh baby foods is another huge category that we're seeing strong growth in from a own brands private label perspective in retail. So that's kind of a high level overview of the product trends and the benefits of HPP for retail private label and own brands. I appreciate the time that Hyperbaric has given us to share some of this information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Brad, thanks for the insightful presentation. Interesting to learn how retailers are currently leveraging HPP. With the few minutes that we have left, I'd love to ask a few questions that will be interest of the audience. The first question being, how do you work with customers looking to enter retail?
So I'd say it depends a little bit on the product category, but we work with a lot of big manufacturers, but also small startup companies. We do have relationships with many of the large national and regional retailers. So I know product developers in the own brands and private label space that are looking for specific items. We're happy to introduce our manufacturing partners to retailers that are looking for those. A lot of times what they're looking for is private label. If a manufacturer is not looking to do private label, we may be able to make an introduction for their own brand, their personal brand. But most retailers are really driving that private label category. So if manufacturers are looking to enter into the private label space, retailers are very interested in co-packers who can do that.
Nice. And just touching on private label, do you guys have a network of private label companies that you guys work with, or do you guys currently offer private labeling as well?
So we don't manufacture anything. We are just an HPP service provider and value-added services. So what we're happy to do with any of our customers who are using our services for HPP is make introductions to retailers that have needs for own brand private label. So a lot of the big retailers aren't manufacturing in-house. They're outsourcing, and we're an outsourced HPP company. So if we can connect a manufacturer who's willing to look into own brands and private label products with a retailer that has a need and a demand for it, that's what we do.
Nice, thanks. Second question, what does a retailer seek in HPP brands?
That's a pretty broad question. So retailers are, depending on the retailer and what their specific categories they're looking for, the reason they're looking to HPP is to get a shorter ingredient deck with a longer shelf life. So, whether it's a protein, wet salad, a juice, or hummus, that's the ultimate goal. They're looking for suppliers that can create and supply those, and work closely with a supplier that's leveraging HPP technology to do that. So the great news is you don't have to own your own HPP equipment. You can do HPP in-house, or you can do it through a third-party toller until you get big enough to own your own equipment. But HPP is open to any manufacturer on the market who wants to get into this space.
Awesome, thanks. Another question here. What HPP products have been trending on retail shelves?
So the perimeter categories are growing. People want cleaner label products. We're seeing tremendous growth in ready-to-eat meats, the meal kit space, the snack kit space, and then wet salads, salsas, dips, hummuses are continuing to grow. Vegan dips, and then plant-based is another big category that we're seeing a lot of R&D and growth in. So people looking to take plant-based foods with a longer shelf life is a new category that's seen a lot of growth this year. So I think a lot of that has to do with people looking to source healthier products coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic as well. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, to finish off, how does HPP align with food waste?
So obviously the ability to 2x or 10x the shelf life on a cleaner product gives a lot more ability for retailers to control and manage their inventory and their supply chain and reduce the amount of food waste that they generate. So obviously, if your consumers are demanding clean label, fresh foods, those tend to have much shorter shelf lives. And so you tend to generate a lot more food waste if you can't turn them as quickly. So being able to extend shelf life while maintaining that clean label with the shorter ingredient deck gives the retailer the ability to manage their food waste and reduce that food waste tremendously.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right. Well, Brad, that concludes our session. I want to thank you and the Universal Pure team for joining us. I'd like to let the audience know if you'd like to learn more about Universal Pure, you can visit them at www.universalpure.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly to Brad. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Hyperbaric. We appreciate you guys.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next session. Bye.
Okay.